Today is March 26, 2025, and welcome to the 432nd episode of the Video Games podcast. Here on the show, I talk about any game at all, including new stuff, old stuff, and anything in between. My name is Brad Galloway, and I'm the one-man host of this show. I'm also the editor of GameCritics.com, a website that uses the full range of review scores from 0 to 10, while also offering full accessibility information on every review that we publish. Hello! Thank you all for joining me today. It's a bit of a special episode. It may not seem that special to you, although I guess every episode is special on its own. They're all near and dear to my heart. But it's a little bit special for me because I'm officially kicking off the brand new recording method, which I talked about over the last couple episodes. Maybe this is TMI, but I'm going to be recording this week's podcast and maybe every podcast for a while, bit by bit, like throughout the week, rather than saving it all up for the end of the week. Like I traditionally would record everything on like a Sunday, especially when Carlos was around, and we'll get to him in a second. But I find that schedule's not working, so I'm trying to think outside the box a little bit, and I'll be doing bit by bit every night of the week, kind of putting a show together piecemeal, and then by the end of the week, hopefully I will have enough content to launch an actual episode. So we'll see how it goes. If it feels weird, if it sounds weird, please let me know. I'm very eager to get your feedback. I want to know if this works for you, if it doesn't work for you, if you don't even notice the difference. I would love to get some general feedback because I do want to keep the shows coming, and I'm just trying to make them fit into my busy schedule, and I know we're all super busy, so I totally get it. But I feel like this might work, so we're going to give this a shot. Some things may sound a little bit out of order. Maybe my voice will be much different between one day and the next. Maybe I'll be more tired one day than the other, or who knows what. But we'll put it together and we'll see what it sounds like, and we'll just go from there. It'll be a big adventure for all of us, y'all. Okay, so I guess there's that. First off, before we get into anything else, I will say that I have planned to have Carlos Rodella. He was supposed to be on last week's episode, but it didn't work out because of scheduling conflicts. That was actually my fault. I had to work all day unexpectedly, and so we had to cancel and postpone. So Carlos will be here. At the time I'm recording this, he's not going to be here for several days, but by the time I get to the end of the show, he'll be here. It'll be like magic, like I'm planting a little Carlos seed and watering it throughout the week, and then by the time I get to the end, it'll be harvest time, and Carlos will be here. So if everything goes according to plan, Carlos will be here at the end of the show. Also, quick shout out to Wyatt the Cat Addict. He wrote in and requested that I cover Star Wars Battlefront 2 because it's on Xbox. And I thought that was cool. I really love getting requests. Thank you very much, Wyatt. Now, I have to admit, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I did not have a copy of it handy, and I did not track it down on Xbox. I may still try to do that. But it seemed to me that, the show's been running for so long, and even I was doing the Game Critics podcast before that. I'm like, I'm sure at some point we have covered it on the show. So I dug into the archives, and sure enough, I was correct. Okay, so this is going out to Wyatt the Cat Addict, just directly to him for like 2 seconds. Everybody else, please bear with me. So Wyatt, thank you very much for your request, sir. Like I said, I'm cheating a little bit, but we did cover this back on the show way back in March 8th, 2018, episode 72. So right now, what are we recording on? What did I just say a second ago? Episode 432. And we recorded it originally on episode 72. So it's been a hot minute since I covered it. I will go ahead and cut in the audio segment from episode 72. Now, Wyatt, I know you probably weren't listening to the show back then because I know you're a new listener. But back then, the show kicked off with me and a completely different co-host at the time. His name is Corey Motley. He's a really good friend of mine. He was a writer at Game Critics before he joined me on the podcast, and we podcasted this show together for like 200 episodes before he had a change in life circumstance and had to move and had to get off the show for reasons. Corey and I are still friends. We still talk every now and again. Love me some Corey, for sure. Corey, if you're listening, love you, brother. And maybe we'll get him back on the show sometime. But the voice you are about to hear is me and Corey Motley from many years ago, back in episode 72, and we are talking about Star Wars Battlefront 2. Gonna cut that in just for you, sir, right now.
All right, if we want to do a real quick one. So I talked about Star Wars. I cannot talk on this podcast. It's kind of a problem. Star Wars. I talked about Star Wars Battlefront 2 probably a month ago or so. I was playing it. It was fine. Wasn't great. Wasn't bad. Very middle of the road shooter. Very beautiful. Keep in mind, I'm also not a big Star Wars fan. Brad asked me how much I've played it since I talked about it on the last show.
Corey Motley, how much more of that game did you play since the last show?
None of it.
That was going to be my guess. So you're talking about just the story mode, just for clarification, though. None of the multiplayer, just the story, right?
Yes, absolutely correct. It's just the story mode.
Okay, so last time we talked, I don't think you were you were like, what, halfway maybe or something? Like, I don't know. I don't think you were like near the end or anything, were you?
Yeah, definitely not near the end. Maybe it's kind of hard to tell how far along you are in the game, but if I had to guess, I would say maybe like 40% or so.
Okay, so you talked about it a little bit. I remember you saying like it was just okay. I'm not surprised to hear that you didn't go back to it, but like in your own words, dear sir, why did you not get back? I assume you just sent it back to GameFly or something, right?
No, that's the sad thing. I actually still have it. I'm totally bad. I know.
Man.
I always do this where I'm like, no, I'll go back and play it. And then I just keep it for like 2 months and I never send it back to GameFly. Well, part of the reason is because Patrick started playing the story mode. So I was like, okay, like if he wants to play the story mode, I have no problem with like keeping it here so he can play it. And I actually think he might have gotten like 1 or 2 missions farther than me and then decided that he wasn't really feeling it, which I expected because it's not really his kind of game. And I mean, it's like, honestly, there's nothing from a story perspective. There's really like nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's not a bad game. It's not badly designed. It's not hard to play. It's just like, I would probably only play it if I literally had like nothing else to play right now. And that's kind of not true because I finished, like the big thing that pulled me away from it was I finished Soma to review because I like had to play Soma and finish it. And then like I got something else in the mail from GameFly, which I'll talk about later. And like I started playing that and like I had some friends over. And so I was showing them some games that I had. And I mean, there's not really like anything wrong with Battlefront 2. It's like perfectly fine. It's just I don't feel the need or like the desire to go back and play any more of it.
See, that is a very real thing that's going on these days. I was talking about almost this exact same topic on Twitter with someone, and we were talking about a game, and now that I'm talking about it with you, I don't even remember like what the game was, but it was kind of exactly what you're saying, where it's like we were playing it and it was fine, but like there are so many games out there today. There's literally like this infinite world of game experiences for you to have, and it is just not good enough to just be a fine game anymore. I mean, if you are not playing something that is like totally gripping you and like keeping you engrossed and you're so excited to get back to it, there's no reason to put time into it. I mean, like you said, unless for some reason that is like literally the only thing you have to play, which I'm guessing most of the people who are in game Twitter and who are listening to the show or whatever. I mean, games are super cheap these days. It's not hard to get a bunch of games. I mean, I think probably most of us have too many games. And there's just making a game. While I know that's a really hard thing, probably beyond my skill set, probably will never do that in my life. I recognize that, but it's not enough to just make a game. Like, it has to be a great game. And even when you do have a great game, there's like a bunch of other great games out there. And so it's got to be like a super great game, So, I mean, I totally get it. Like, I mean, I'm sure that it was fine. Battlefront 2, I mean, it looked okay. But I mean, yeah, if it wasn't grabbing you, you've got like this infinite array of other things to get to. So I am not at all surprised that you dropped it. And I talked about maybe thinking about playing it for the story mode. After you talked about it last time, I took it off my GameFly queue. I'm like, nah, not even going to waste my time. I just do not even have that time. So don't blame you a bit, dude.
Yeah, I need to just suck it up and send it back to GameFly like tomorrow and then cross my fingers that they'll send me something good in return.
Yeah, man. I mean, I hate to say it, but like we are not infinite beings and life is too short to play mediocre games. Like if there's just so many things out right now, if you're not loving it, you got to move on and do something else because you got to maximize your time on Earth. And that Battlefront 2 is not going to win that war right now. So, all right. That was our rambling discussion on Star Wars Battlefront 2. Wyatt, the cat addict, please let me know what you thought. If you feel like I cheated too much, that's cool. I'll go back and I'll play it for real. But I wanted to run that by you first, brother. See what you thought of that. Okay. Moving on to the rest of the show. I know we're kind of already getting wacky. chaos has descended. We're already doing things out of order. I didn't even get to housekeeping yet. Let's do that right now. I've got a couple quick housekeeping bits. First one is that Game Informer is back. If you were a Game Informer fan, and I mean, let's face it, if you have been playing games for any amount of time, you probably knew about Game Informer, at least tangentially. If you didn't subscribe to it, you knew of the website, or you knew of its affiliation with GameStop, or you probably knew some of the writers. I mean, Game Informer, super influential. It's been around for like forever and ever. And then it suddenly shut its doors. They got bought out or something, some corporate overlords doing their dirty business, what have you. And then went out of business. Everybody was like super shocked. Everybody felt super bad. And, you know, stuff happened. It was gone for a while. And then out of the blue, they made an announcement saying, hey, we're back. And not only are we back, but we're back with like literally everybody who got fired and laid off. Like the entire crew is back. Apparently there's a studio out there called Gunzilla Games. Now, full disclosure, I've never heard of them before. I looked them up online and I'm like, I have no idea who you people are. I recognize a couple of people on their like their board or maybe their staff page or whatever it was. I'm like, okay, I see some people here who I know, not personally, but like I know of them. But the company, the studio, drawing a blank. And I'm like, okay, you guys must be doing something right because you had enough money to buy the Game Informer like rights and to employ all of the staffers. That is no small amount of money. So clearly they were, you know, huge fans and had the pockets deep enough to get it done. So kudos to Gunzilla. I'll be keeping an eye on them to see what they're up to and what they're about. And I don't have a whole lot of info right now, but apparently the website is back up. People either were doing reviews in the interim or maybe there were some reviews that were shelved. So they have like new content up already. I believe they're going to be bringing back the print version is what I heard. I can't confirm that, but that's what I heard. All the staff are back. They're getting paid. I mean, this is cool. This is very cool because Game Informer is certainly a central part of like just the game scene and game history. But I gotta admit, I'm a little bit curious as to how they're going to fund this long term. I mean, paying for something, you know, to be bought or to get off the ground or to open up is one thing, but to do it long term, especially with the number of people they're paying, the staff, I mean, there traditionally hasn't been a whole lot of money in game reviews and games journalism. So I guess my eyebrow is a little bit raised. Are they going to just operate this at a loss? Does Gunzilla Games make so much money they can afford to just pay for Game Informer and not care about it? I mean, possible. I don't know. I don't even know what Gunzilla Games even does. So I guess we'll just see what happens. But overall, I want to just say this is a net positive so far. Very excited. Congratulations to all the staffers who got their jobs back. Congratulations to everybody who was a fan. I know that those archives going away, those reviews going away was crazy. And fuck the venture capitalists or whoever it was that put it out of business in the first place. Fuck those guys. Fucking equity firms ruining everything for everybody all the time. Fuck them forever. So anyway, Game Informer is back. Check it out. I just went there today earlier. You can sign back up for an account, or I'm not sure if you can reactivate an old account, but you can certainly sign back up for a new account and they will let you know when like they're having more options, like when they're going to launch the print mag or when they've got new things to talk about. So you can sign up for the newsletter, stay informed about Game Informer, and there you go. The only other thing I have for housekeeping this week is a pretty interesting one. My good friend Daniel Durant, who is an Oscar-winning actor, so proud of that guy. I love that guy so much. He is a deaf actor. He's been in a number of things. He's been on Broadway, Spring Awakening, a bunch of other stuff. He was also in the movie Coda, which won the Academy Award for Best Picture. He's been in a bunch of other stuff, a bunch of movies, and et cetera, et cetera. So Daniel is a good friend of mine, and he got tapped to do the ASL version of The Last of Us on Max. So he is going to be doing an ASL version, which is sign language for people who want to watch the show, with supplementary sign language like in the corner. He's going to be green screened in, and he's going to be giving the ASL interpretation of what's happening on screen. Very much looking forward to it. Daniel is a hell of an actor. He is a great signer, of course, and a really good guy. Couldn't have happened to a better guy. I love that guy. So those episodes, both season 1 and season 2, I believe he's already done everything for season 1 already. And he's been working with the same director who did the ASL version of the Barbie movie. So that's going to be up, I believe, on March 31st. And then he is going to be doing episode by episode for season 2. which launches shortly afterwards. So shout out to Daniel. He's doing great work. So proud of him. Super talented. Check it out, and you can see what an ASL version of The Last of Us looks like. I haven't seen it myself, but I am super excited, and I'm sure he's going to be doing a hell of a job. I love working with that guy. He's super talented. So there you go. Check out my good buddy Daniel on Max starting March 31st. The Last of Us Season 1 and 2. And that's going to do it for housekeeping this week. Nothing else to say. And I'm feeling kind of scattered already, so I say let's just get on with the show here. I usually start the main portion of the show with circle backs, where I circle back to something I've covered on a previous episode. But I actually have been pretty busy this week, so I don't have any circle backs. It's been basically new stuff, so no circle backs this week, but we will just jump right into the main content. Hope that's all right with you. And I guess if it's not okay, then I guess I don't know what to say other than I'm sorry, but that's just how it's rolling this week. So let's just get into it. First game up this week is a big one, Assassin's Creed Shadows. So this is a weird one. I feel like I'm caught in the time warp because I got an early copy. Thank you very much to Ubisoft. Wonderful, wonderful people over at Ubisoft. So I got an early copy, was playing this. I was talking about it with some people, comparing notes with John over at Gaming in the Wild. Shout out to John, of course, and his wonderful podcast and his wonderful Discord community he's got going. Playing it myself, talking to some other people as well. And then I kind of stopped playing it and I kind of just did other things. And so I kind of like finished my time with it before it even came out. And so now that it's out, people are starting to talk about it and the reviews have dropped. And so I feel like I'm kind of like, I'm all like out of time. Like I traveled through time backwards or something, and now my head's all messed up about it. But I still need to cover it in the show, so that is exactly what I'm doing now. Assassin's Creed Shadows. So I haven't officially talked about it before, but now everything is fair game. So let's get into it. This is one I actually was pretty excited for quite some time for a couple of reasons. I mean, number one, it's been a while since I played an Assassin's Creed, so I was thinking, okay, like it's been a minute, so I might be able to do one of these. I know that they're usually huge games, big open world wander around, usually a million map markers and stuff like that. And like, you know, Ubisoft took some heat a while ago for kind of like, you know, staying too close to that formula for too long. But, you know, the last one I played was Odyssey, which I fucking loved. Like Assassin's Creed Odyssey is just like, what an amazing fucking game. Really love that fucking game so much. I did everything in that game, just rinsed it from start to finish. Cassandra, the main character, it was just absolutely fantastic. So much like charisma and magnetism to her. I wanted to do everything, spend as much time with her as possible, and I did. So that was great. And I haven't really touched an AC since then. So I felt like I was ready. This one was intriguing. I mean, yeah, Japan is fine. I know a lot of people have been jonesing for the Assassin's Creed series to go to Japan. I was not really one of them. I mean, Japan is fine. Nothing against it. I've never been there, so whatever. But, you know, it's not a setting that I was like really, really burning for them to go into. But, you know, it's okay. Fine. You start the game with, well, you know, you have two protagonists. I'm sure everybody knows this by now. You have Naoe. Yes, Naoe is the smaller, lithe, quick Japanese ninja. And she is from Iga Village, which I guess is renowned for training assassins or whatever. So she does your traditional sneaky, you know, nimble throwing stars and katana type stuff, right? And then the other guy is Yasuke, who is based on a real character, real life historical figure, who was an African who was brought to Japan, I believe, as a slave. They go through this in the beginning of the game. Brought to Japan as a slave, and then Nobunaga sees him and decides to elevate him to samurai status, takes him on, trains him, and this was like a real thing that fucking happened. So that's like amazing, pretty fucking incredible. I'm sure some people are going to cry and say, well, there's no white man in this game. I mean, yeah, there's some white dudes, but they're usually jerks or whatever. It's totally fine to have a game with a Japanese woman and an African man as the leads. A-okay, totally fine with that, and I was looking forward to it. So the idea of going back and forth between Yasuke's like heavier samurai combat, he's got like a bat, like a spike bat and some swords, and he's just like a brute strength kind of a guy, crashes through doors and stuff like that, as opposed to Naoe's, you know, hiding in the shadows, throwing kunai, you know, stealthy assassin. I mean, pretty good dichotomy, pretty good difference in gameplay style. So that's pretty cool. But I will say this game did not really start off on the right foot with me, and it struggled to connect. I think to begin with, I don't think the storytelling is that great. And I've heard a lot of people praise the storytelling, and that's fine. Like, if you dig it, that's totally cool. Like, I'm not trying to take away from that. But for me, it just kind of was very predictable. I don't know if I want to say cliche, but it felt pretty cliche. I was way more interested in Yasuke's story than I was in Naoe's. And so we end up spending like the first 10 hours of the game with Naoe. Like, the game starts, you get Yasuke for like 20 minutes, and I'm like, okay, this is fun and interesting, cool. And then you switch to Naoe, and you're just her for like the next like 10 hours. And it's like, okay, dude, this is like way too long to spend with her, because I wanted to like switch back and forth. So that was kind of a bummer. But Naoe begins, and it's like really typical. Like, the invading dudes are coming, and they killed everybody, and my dad's dead, and I want revenge now. And it was just like, dude, okay, whatever. Like, I'm just not really fascinated with that particular period of feudal Japan. I know it's a big theme if you're in Japan, if you're Japanese. I'm sure this is a huge part of your heritage, and no disrespect whatsoever. But for me personally, it's just not that interesting of a period for me. I just don't care that much. And so there's a lot of names, there's a lot of stuff going on that I don't feel is really well explained. I'm not like an expert on the period, and so I just had a hard time connecting with this story. I just kind of didn't care. And the revenge story I felt like was, typical. You end up having to take out a bunch of dudes before you get to the big dude, and full disclosure, I did not finish this game. I got kind of bored and bounced beforehand. I just didn't connect with the story. Like, it was just very dry and straightforward. And without a story, I struggled to really get into the gameplay. I found that the game overall felt like a step back in some ways. I did not play the most recent Ragnarok. I did not play the one that was set in Egypt, which was Origin. So I skipped a couple. So I don't know what AC has been up to in the meantime. But when I played Odyssey, it was like, you could pretty easily see what was a friendly zone and what was an enemy zone. And I felt like that was kind of jumbled here. I felt like that wasn't super clear all the time. There's like just huge. The map is like enormously huge. And I'm like, boy, this seems like a really, really big map. I found a bunch of like quests that didn't really hook me. They weren't very funny. They weren't very interesting. I didn't really connect with anything that was going on. I felt like I got to the busy work like almost right off the bat. And as much as I enjoyed Odyssey, that had so much character going for it. Really funny quests, really funny character dialogue, great voice acting delivery, colorful, bright world. It was pretty amazing in all respects. And this one, yeah, it looks okay, but like graphics aren't really the biggest draw for me. I see a lot of people who are talking about Shadows going, oh my God, I can't stop doing the photo mode. And every scene is every scene is like a postcard, and everything is so beautiful and the detail. And I'm like, cool. Like, I support you enjoying that, but that's not where I'm at personally. Like, I don't really care that there's that much detail on the trees or the leaves. You see the Torii gates. I'm like, cool. I just blow right past them. It just doesn't bother me. It doesn't fascinate me. So I guess I'm not really entranced by the world that much. I really want to like start doing the gameplay and just get into the quests, and the quests are dull. I just don't care about the character, don't care about the story. And right off the bat, not only were the actual quests pretty dull, just straightforward, go here, talk to this guy, do the tea ceremony, okay, whatever. Meet a dog. That was, I guess, okay. Dogs are always good. But there was just a lot of just like, go here and talk to this guy, walk and talk for a while, and then come back and do something else. It just felt pretty flat. I will also say there's a lot of stuff in the world that just feels like just cruff, just time wasting stuff. Like driving your horse around, and you have to pray at these shrines to get these knowledge points. And then like there's these other places you go, temples, where you find these items that are just there, and you just like collect stuff. And it just feels like a lot of just junk in the environment that I really didn't want to deal with. None of it felt like it was very substantial or worthwhile. So this game feels like a step backwards to me, honestly, because many of the quests in Odyssey, which is my most recent touch point, like I said, were really fucking funny. Like, they were really like unusual or weird, or at least Cassandra would say something that made me laugh, like there was a lot of joy in it. I don't really get that sense here. And a lot of people were like, oh, stay with it, you'll feel involved and you'll feel connected. And I just don't, brother. And that's okay. Like, I got a million other things to play. So if this one doesn't connect with me, I think that's totally fine. I will say also that I started with the English voice acting. I didn't mean to, but I guess I missed that option. And so I start with the English voice acting, and it is bad. Like, I don't know what's going on. And I'm not going to say too much about it, but like listening to it, I was like, oh, Jesus, like this is This is awful. I need to switch this to the Japanese voice track like ASAP, and I'm glad that I did. So that was definitely like a must. I will also say that I absolutely did not care for the music. I felt like the music was really strange, super cheesy in some places, and kind of weirdly like emotionally inappropriate in other places. It just did not connect at all. I don't know what they were going for. Maybe they're going for like a specific era of like Japanese cinema. I've heard some people compare it to like 70s Japanese cinema, and that's cool if you like that. I'm not sure that I do like that. So that part really kind of bounced off me, and I didn't like that at all. There's a place where you can build up your fortress. Like you get a little patch of land and a house. You can build stuff there. And I'm like, I kind of didn't care really. It didn't seem that significant, and also is really poorly tutorialized. And actually, most of the stuff in this game I feel like is really poorly tutorialized, which is a shame. I had a lot of questions at the beginning of the game that I felt like should have been answered, and I just did not feel like I got off on the right foot. I will also say that this game tries something new with a spy system where I guess I'm not sure what they were going for, because the map is like 75 million miles wide, and there's a hojillion bunch of map markers and stuff, but they want you to send spies to certain regions of the area to kind of like quote unquote find your objectives. But there's like limits to it. You've only got a certain number of spies, and once you dispatch them, you can't get them back until the end of the season unless you pay some money. And the whole thing felt very cumbersome. I just want to go. I mean, this game is probably going to be 50, 60, 70 hours. I'm not going to find out, but I'm guessing it's pretty huge and pretty long. And so that just seemed like a really bad idea. I guess I'm not sure what they were going for. Like, it seems like maybe that could be used to do something special, maybe look for very special objectives or whatever, but it seems like they just want you to do it right off the bat for everything. Luckily, you can turn that off, and I turned it off like after like 20 minutes. I'm like, this is crazy. I got to turn this off. I cannot do this. So that felt like a fail to me. So overall, I really did not like Assassin's Creed Shadows at all. I guess if you're a huge, Japanophile and you really like the country and you're okay just like looking at the scenery, or you like 70s Japanese cinema or something, I mean, maybe that's for you. Maybe it is. But for me, I really struggled on every aspect. Game felt like it was wasting my time. I did not have any interesting story beats. The quests were not interesting. The area felt very large. Tutorials were not great. I just couldn't. I bounced off, and I was like, this is not for me. And I was bummed. Because I was actually really looking forward to digging into an Assassin's Creed, and I was excited to go back and forth between these two characters, but unfortunately neither one of them clicked. Or maybe Yasuke would have clicked, but it took too long for me to get back to him. I didn't want to spend that much time with Naue. So I just bounced, and I just don't think this one is for me. So that was kind of my experience with Assassin's Creed Shadows. Not a great one, and kind of disappointing after being excited for it for so long. But I will say, kind of a plot twist here, I still wanted to play an Assassin's Creed. I was like, I got all hyped up for it. I got psyched up. I was ready to go and play an AC. And I'm like, well, I want to do this now. Nothing left for me to do in Odyssey. I did literally everything, and I wouldn't want to replay it anyway. It's like too big of an experience. But I'm like, well, okay, there's other ones in the series I haven't played. I could play Origins, maybe. I believe I own that. I believe I own most of them. I just haven't played them all. Ragnarok, I heard, was like too long and kind of too flat, so that didn't sound good. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Everybody talks about Black Flag as being like one of the good ones, right? And I go to look. It's like $7 on Xbox. I'm like, okay, $7. I mean, I've bought coffee that's more expensive than $7, right? And been embarrassed about it. But, that's a very small amount to ask for what is rumored to be a very substantial game. So I'm like, you know what? I still want to play AC. I'm going to try Black Flag because I've heard so much fucking about it that everybody said it was great. This one has a pretty good rep. And I'm like, why not? Let's just let's just buy that. Yes, let's do it. Spent the $7, downloaded it, and I jumped into Black Flag like later that day or the next day. And you know what? It's fucking great. Black Flag is fucking great. I wish I had played it sooner. I didn't realize how good it was going to be. It grabbed me like immediately. And after having literally just got done playing AC Shadows and jumping into Black Flag, the compare and contrast was like super fresh in my mind. And it was blowing me away how much better Black Flag felt in basically all aspects. It's pretty wild. So Black Flag is... what years? I don't even know what year it's from. It's from back in the day. It's from 2013. Wow, 12 years ago. Holy shit. 12 years ago. So I loaded up and immediately the graphics are like a bit rough. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I know it's an older game. That's fine. Controls feel a little rough. And I'm like, all right, whatever. But once you get past that, and you do get past it, like you acclimate to it, like, you know, whatever. It's fucking great. I will say that the main character, Edward Kenway, starts off with a bang. Like, I immediately like the dude right off the bat. He's like this roguish pirate guy, and it threw me for a surprise. I mean, I guess I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but like, he's not your typical Assassin's Creed character because he's just like a pirate. He ends up killing the guy who's actually the assassin, takes all his shit, takes his stuff, takes his knife blade, his suit, and he like pretends to be that guy so he can get some money out of it. And I'm like, okay, cool, I'm on board. This sounds like kind of like a weird crooked heist, and this guy is fucking ballsy and going for it. Okay, right on. And it's different. I will say the voice acting so far in this has been all like super on point. Really good voices. I like them a lot. And I will say that writing is funny. It's serious, but it's also funny. There's been a load of jokes. The very first supporting character you meet is a barrel of laughs. Like, they're having some, you know, they're not taking it too seriously, although it is kind of a serious game. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I get the vibe. I like the vibe. And this is working for me. Tutorials, definitely great. They took their time to explain all the systems, walked me through it. I don't have any questions. I understand exactly what I'm doing. And I'm like, all right, this is great. They're doing it correctly. This is really good. The story is basically you're this pirate guy. You impersonate an assassin. You meet the Templars. They figure you out, you know, before too long. And then you got to like escape on the high seas. You get your own pirate ship. You get a crew. I love your crew. They start talking about like racial stuff almost immediately. Your guy, what is he called? The chief, master chief, or the crew chief, or whatever. He's like the second in command or whatever. His name is Adewale, and he's an African. And so he wants to be in control of the ship. And they talk about it. They're like, you know, these pirate dudes are white. They're never going to accept you as a captain, but I respect you, and I'm going to put you as my second in command, and we can be buddies on this thing. And they kind of like just have it out in the open. And I have heard from other people that race plays a pretty big role in this one, which I think is great. I would love to see them address it, and I feel like they've really addressed it well so far. I think Adewale is a great character, and he clearly has feelings, right? Like, I feel for him. He wants to be captain. He should be fucking captain, but he knows in this time and place it's never going to happen. So he's quietly dealing with this, and you can tell that he's dealing with it. He's not happy. It's not right what's been done to him, but it's like his reality, and so he's dealing with it. I'm so curious to see how this plays out. And then you get to the gameplay. Now, I will say, heads up, this is like old school Assassin's Creed, and it took me a hot minute to wrap my head around it, because back in the day, I remember when the very first Assassin's Creed dropped, okay? That was like a while ago. And AC back then is very different from AC now, and I forgot how different it was. The free running system it feels very different. It feels very more haphazard and loosey-goosey. But the combat is the biggest thing. I totally had forgotten that back in the day, you did not fight in AC like a regular action game the way you do these days. It was basically, you would try not to get seen, and I'm terrible at stealth, so I get seen all the time. And then a bunch of guys run up and surround you, and then they all wait their turn to attack you, and you see a little counter icon above their head. You push the counter button when you see the counter icon, and the countering window is a mile wide. Like, you cannot miss these counters. They want you to counter. And if you counter it, and honestly, there's no way you're not going to counter it. You counter it, it's an instant kill. So like, what you end up doing is getting surrounded. You counter each guy one by one. You insta-kill each one, and then you like move on when everybody's dead. Is it super satisfying? No, it's not. There's a reason they changed it. But it is what it is. It's 13 years old or 12 years old or whatever it is. And that's just how it was back then. I also had forgotten about like blending in with crowds. Like, that was a thing back then too, where you got to trail a lot of people. I will say, on the downside, there's way too many trailing people missions in this game. That sucks. But like, you're trailing somebody. If somebody sees you, you can just like blend into a crowd. You like step into a crowd of people, you get a little shimmery effect, and you disappear. So old school AC, like, we used to do that back in the day, and I had forgotten. It's kind of a trip to go back there. And to be frank, I never played Black Flag because that was when Ubisoft was cranking these things out left, right, and center. I played Assassin's Creed, played Assassin's Creed 2, played another one after that, and then I'm like, okay, I'm good. But they just kept doing more and more. And so by the time this rolled out the first time, I was good on AC. Like, I was like, I have played enough. I don't want any more of this. I repeat formula. I'm out. But it's kind of a shame because this is the good one. But to be frank, I don't know that I would have appreciated it back then because I think I was just too burned out. But now that it's been so long, I mean, 12, 13 years since Black Flag launched, and I have not played Odyssey for a couple years at least. So I feel fresh, and like, going back to it now, I feel more ready to kind of accept it for what it is. And I'm loving it. It's so fun. When you're on your pirate ship doing ship to ship combat is really cool. You pirate this boat, and you can fire like different guns based on how you look. So if you're looking to the right or the left, you get the big guns. You look straight ahead, you get the small gun. You look in the back, you get these flaming barrels. You got a mortar also. So sailing around the high seas is pretty fun. I think the moving around and like doing the free running stuff is pretty cool. The parkour stuff is all right. You go from island to island, finding treasure and killing animals and upgrading, and it's just like a pretty solid semi, I guess if you want to call it old school. I hesitate to call it old school, but I guess it kind of is. Semi old school formula that really worked, and coming back to it, I'm like, this is so much fucking fun. I'm like loving this. And it just really helps too. I don't think I would play it if Kenway, the character, wasn't so strong, but he is super strong. He talks to either other pirates. He's always cracking a joke, or he's, talking about something. There's interesting things going on. I love the supporting cast. It's just really fucking fun. And to be perfectly blunt, really, really blunt, I think this is a much better game than AC Shadows. It's not as technically adroit. Obviously it's an old game. The graphics are old. Controls feel old. The combat definitely feels old. But like, once you get past all that, like when you really strip that away and look at what's here, it's a much better game. Like the story is more interesting, characters more interesting, script more interesting. I think the locale is great. I like the way that they do like a lot of open space, and there's also ocean, but there's also things to climb. It's a good balance, and I think it just all really works. I am absolutely stunned at how much fun I'm having with Black Flag, and I'm really glad that I gave it a try. And for $7, wow, what a fucking deal, dude. So if you're in the mood for an AC and you love Japan and you love a samurai and ninja, okay, we'll do Shadows, right? Like, it's not a bad game. I'm not saying it's a bad game, but it's not the game for me, and I found it pretty boring. But if you want an AC and you haven't played Black Flag yet, this is pretty fucking good. Yeah, it clicked with me immediately despite the age, despite all the warts, despite, the clunky systems and stuff. It's got a really good core of some good shit going on here. So I love Black Flag. I'm definitely going to finish that one. Having a great time. $7. Jesus, what else do you want? Okay, that's what I've got to say about Assassin's Creed, and let's move on. Okay, through the magic of podcasting, it's actually been a couple days since the last segment. Doing this and that, playing some games, etc., getting ready to record the rest of it. And today actually was the day that Carlos was supposed to make his appearance. Unfortunately, Carlos is feeling a little bit under the weather, so he was not able to make it. So we will wish Carlos a get well soon, brother, and hope to see you soon. So unfortunately, despite my promising it earlier in the show, Carlos will not be here, and we'll just we'll catch up with him next time, I'm guessing, or as soon as he's feeling a little better. So get well soon, Carlos. No worries, the show will go on. Also want to take a minute to give a shout out to Daphne, a recent listener of the podcast. Just had a chat with her recently, and she requested that I cover the Nintendo Princess Peach game, which is totally cool. I was thinking about playing it. I haven't bought it yet, but I guess since a new listener would like me to review that, maybe I will get to it sooner rather than later. So shout out to Daphne. Thank you very much for listening to the show, and thank you for your request. It is very, very appreciated. What else has been happening in the time vortex since the last time I recorded? Oh, I got an email from a brand new indie, brand new to me, I guess, not brand new in general. Indie developer, his name is Adam DeRose. He is also a father to 3, and he reached out about his brand new, or I guess recently updated game. It's on itch, and it's about, I guess it's based on books that he's been doing with his kids. They're called Moose Books. You can check it out at moose-books.com. And according to the PR email, he says this is a family project. He's got 3 kids, Parker, Annabelle, and Morgan, who help out with this specific game. It's a very simple, straightforward game. I played it briefly on itch. It's really cute. And when my son, who is now 15, soon to be 16, if he was, 4 or 5 or something, he would have eaten this game up for sure. It would have been exactly something he would have spent a whole hour playing and would have enjoyed it. Basically, the game is, it's called The Moose's Ocean Outing. That's what the book is called. And I believe it's book 6 in the Moose Books series. But this game, which is on itch, is you play a moose, which is underwater, and you swim in a direction, and you pick up peanut butter jars, and you pick up bread, and you pick up jelly, and you collect all these sandwich items, and you just swim around and you just move the moose around underwater, with the arrow keys or whatever, and you just pick those up. And for a young child who is learning how to play games, that's really interesting and very engaging. For them to finally, like, or I guess not finally, but initially make the connection of, oh, when I push this button, it moves something on screen and I have a direct effect. That's a pretty powerful connection to make. And so there's not a lot of games that make it very, very easy for kids to do that. I remember when my child was young and we were playing, I think it was Xbox 360 at the time. We played a lot of indie games because some of those were simple enough, but it was a real struggle to find things that kids could approach that didn't take a million buttons, that didn't have some kind of complicated game mechanics, something that was just really simple. And I remember when I was being the dad looking for kids games, the things we played the most were Feeding Frenzy, which was about fish eating other fish on Xbox 360, and also Cloning Clyde, which was a very simple platformer where Clyde could clone himself, and he could also change into different animals, and he made all sorts of funny noises that my son thought was just absolutely hilarious. So those were our two favorites back in the day. Marble Madness, maybe, I think that was what it was called, or was it? Yeah, I think it was Marble Madness, whatever it was. Anyway, so I get it. If you're a dad, and I didn't have any game programming skills, if I did, I probably would have made games for my kids that would have very much resembled this Moose game. So it's pretty fun. You just, like, if you're a kid, you swim around left and right, up and down, collect the peanut butter and jelly makings, and then occasionally you'll come across a jar of mustard. And at first I couldn't figure it out, but you push the space bar and then you throw the jar of mustard. So when a shark will approach you and he will try to take you out, and it's not gory at all. Like, he just gets you and then you just, like, blink out or whatever. You throw the jar of mustard and it hits the sharks, and apparently sharks don't like mustard. I guess this is a well-known scientific fact. And they go away, and you can keep on collecting your PB&J. I don't know if there's an end state to it. I didn't play long enough to, like, roll credits or anything. I'm not even sure if you can roll credits, but it's very cute, very straightforward. It's free. It's on itch. And also you can go check out these books. There's a whole series of books, the Moose Books series. And in fact, I think the one that I saw, book 6, had a YouTube link where Adam, the author, I believe it's Adam's voice, he reads off the book to kids, so you can kind of, like, look at the pictures and hear him read the story as well. I will say also that he does call out in his email that his kids all helped out with the sound effects for the game, and it's it's hilarious. It's really good, and in fact, I think that's the best part of the entire game, is hearing the various sound effects when you click on menu options, or, like, when the stuff happens on screen. You can you can hear the kids doing these weird, like, oof and ah and and all these sounds and stuff, and it made me laugh out loud. It's really cool. So not exactly in my wheelhouse at this particular moment, because my son is now a little bit outside the age range that I think this content is shooting for, but I think it's really neat. It's definitely got a good energy to it. It's fun, and if you are a parent, recent parent, or you've got a small little one, it might be worth your time to check out not only this free Moose making PBJs underwater, but also all the Moose Book series that he's got on his website there. Once again, www.moose-books.com. Check it out, and thank you to Adam DeRose for reaching out. This was a hoot and holler, and I had a pretty fun time looking at this stuff. So thanks, and also shout out to Parker, Annabelle, and Morgan. All right, moving on. Let me talk for a minute about Fights in Tight Spaces. This is not a new game. It's been around for a while, and I've had my eye on it for a long time, but for whatever reason, we didn't review it, or at least I didn't review it back when it dropped. I think it was like we got PC code, and I was waiting for console, and then by the time the console code came out, I kind of just forgot about it. Just, the daily rush of, like, games reviewing and podcast content milling and all that stuff. So anyway, I think the sequel Nights in Tight Spaces just dropped on PC, and that's what made me remember Fights in Tight Spaces. And I'm like, oh gosh, did it ever make it to console? Let's check it out. And I happened to be on Xbox at that moment, so I went over to Xbox. Sure enough, there it was, Fights in Tight Spaces, and that was an instant purchase for me. I think it was $20 brand new, although there is some DLC as well. But this is one I've been wanting to play for quite some time, and I figured this was as good a time as any to finally give it a shot. Basically, it's a really systems-focused experience. There's some story. It's like, oh, you're a secret agent doing secret agent stuff and save the world and blah, 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 blah. It really doesn't matter. And I've only gotten to the first world. I did not put, like, a ton of time into it because, again, got distracted. Whatever, this is my life. But basically, it's all got this very minimalist graphics, like really, like, black shaded outline kind of characters, low detail, but it's all, intentionally so. The world is very empty. My son said he thought it reminded him of Superhot, and I think that's a pretty good comparison. Like red, there's some black, some white. Everything is like lines. You can see what's going on, no problem. But it's clear that graphics, like graphical fidelity to the real world, is not what they were going for, and I think that's a-okay. I think it looks great just how it is. So essentially, each room, the aforementioned tight spaces, are various like I don't know, just square rooms or hallways or whatever. The first area is that you're going after a biker gang. And so you go on these maps where you can choose different places to go. It's usually a choice between A or B. Do you want to go to the infirmary or do you want to go to the mess hall? And then later on, it's like, oh, do you want to go to the back alley or do you want to go to the front office or, something like that. Pretty straightforward. And when you get there, each area, as you might imagine, these tight spaces they're not like mega tight, but some of them are pretty tight. In terms of like, it's a grid-based system and you'll be in a very small room. These maps are not extensive, and they're not expansive either. And so you'll drop in and there might be like one or two guys and you go first. And you also have a deck building component to this where you have a series of cards and there's a series of decks to unlock and different cards you can do. I have not spent a lot of time messing with the decks because I was just learning the basics, kind of picking up the systems. I didn't want to fiddle with it too much. But apparently in the deck that I was using, you get at least one movement card per turn, and then you get a series of attacks. And so it might be like, the movement card might be like move one square forward, or maybe move one square sideways, or you get a good one that says move to a square that's adjacent to an enemy, so it lets you move a little bit quicker. The attack cards are stuff like, kick forward, move one forward step, or kick but don't move a step, or side kick where you kick somebody and move them like over one square. And so it becomes this really like super hyper granular to the details system of what cards do I have, how many guys are in the room, what attacks can I do. And it's an interesting system because if enemies are not facing you, and facing is important, like left, right, or north, south, east, west, I guess. If they are not immediately facing you, then most enemies cannot attack you. They need to take a turn to either get to where you are and face you or turn and face you. So that means that with most enemy characters, you already know, as long as they're not facing you, you've got at least one turn to get out of trouble or get out of their way, right? Some enemies have straightforward attacks. Some have like side to side attacks. Some have sweeping attacks. And so depending on the enemy, like, your dodges and stuff will have to be different, but you're basically just kind of like taking your turn, moving around, trying to make sure you're not in line of sight of anybody, and then let them go. Hopefully they miss you. And then you reposition, take your attacks, and take them down. It's slow paced, but I think that's appropriate. Like, you're agonizing over every move. You're agonizing over every square. What cards do I have? How can I get myself out of trouble? What's the best way to attack these guys? How can I constantly be out of their line of sight, but also be close enough to hit them? So it's interesting. It's also interesting because after you complete a level, you have the option to watch the entire thing play out. And so I've done that, and it's actually pretty cool. I wish they would speed it up just a little bit, but basically you can see your entire match in order. And then when you take the turn by turn out of it and just watch the replay, it does really look kind of like a ballet of fights. Like, you're dodging and weaving and kicking and punching and circling around the room and circling the guys. It ends up coming together pretty well. I think it's kind of a neat effect. Oh, I like that a lot. I will say I definitely enjoy this game quite a bit. It seems quite deep. It seems like there's a lot to learn, lots of strategies, lots of little tips to pick up. I'm just barely scratching the surface of it, but I do like it quite a bit. I will say I feel like it's difficult, though. I'm on the easiest level because I'm just learning the system still, and I'm not really a glutton for punishment anyway. And I feel like even on the easiest level, it's getting pretty hard. Like, I got to a room where I eventually had to fight, I think 8 guys. They weren't all in the room at the same time, but I think the most I've ever had so far in the room at once is maybe 4 guys. And so 1v4 is already pretty challenging. But then, if you can't maneuver around these guys, or they box you in, or they got you in a pincer movement or something, you can get into trouble pretty fast. And so I have not beaten a whole run yet. And after you beat this run with the bikers, I think there's 3 or 4 more levels after that. And then I think there's the DLC level after that. So it seems like there's tons of content and tons of room to learn the systems and perfect your technique. And then, again, as I said, I haven't even begun to mess around with my deck, tweak my deck or see which cards I like better. I'm still just learning it, but I dig it so far. I can see why this was so popular when it dropped. I'm glad that I remembered it. and I'm having fun kind of just cracking into it. Progress is slow, but bit by bit we'll get there. But definitely good stuff. Fights on tight spaces. Playing it on Xbox. There is DLC. It's also on PC. I'm not sure where else it is, but it's out there. And also, like I said at the beginning of the segment, the reason I remembered it was because these same developers just dropped their brand new game. It came out, I think, 2 weeks ago. Knights in tight spaces. So the same basic concept, but with knights and swords and stuff like that. That looks like another banger. I will be very interested in that when the time comes, when it comes to console. So heads up. But so far, this is definitely a huge thumbs up for tactics fans and strategy fans if you haven't cracked into it already. Next up is Expelled, coming to us from Inkle. They are a very talented studio. They have put out several really charming games. This is their latest. If you're not familiar with them, they have put out things like A Highland Song, Heaven's Vault, I know was a popular one, and the one that came right before this, Overboard. This one, Expelled, is very much in the same vein as Overboard. So, Expelled, you play a girl who is at a girls' school. It's like I don't want to say it's Catholic, but like a religious girls' academy. And it's like a story-based game. There are puzzles and mysteries. There's also a time element, like a clock runs, and there's not really a point and click element, but like you find items by asking questions or by going to a certain place at a certain time. Oh boy, it's kind of tough to describe this one. Let me back up a little bit. So you're this girl at this academy. The game starts. A little bit confusing. I feel like they could have clarified this a little bit, but basically you're at the top of this tower, and a fellow girl at the school who you do not like falls or is pushed out of the stained glass window and falls. She doesn't die, but she lands at the bottom of this thing, and she's like all beat up and bruised, and you either did it or she is trying to blame you for it. And so right off the bat, the principal of the school or the headmistress or whatever calls you in and says, you did this and you're a bad person and blah, 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 and you're expelled. And that's, where they get the name of the game. You're expelled. So time starts over from that point, and then you have to kind of go back in and make different choices. So you have a number of different locations that you can choose to go to. And when you go to them, it'll tell you like what time it is, how long it'll take you to get there. And then once you're there, you can choose to spend a certain amount of time, and you can investigate things. Like you can look at books, you can pick up notes, or you can go to a place where there's people. You can talk to the people, ask them questions. And based on what you already know and what you have found, it'll open up more options for you to ask more questions. And then if you ask those right questions, sometimes it'll open up new locations or new options that you might not have had before. So basically, you are not only trying to uncover like a mystery, but also you're trying to arrange events to stop yourself from getting expelled. And it goes even deeper than that, because then once you get a grasp of what's going on, you can try to blame other people for it, or you can try to like move things around so that not only do you stay at school, but like, things work out to your advantage, or some mishaps fall to the people that you don't like at the school. So once you get enough clues, and once you know where things are, and once you know when things happen, because things happen during the day. Like one of my most recent runs, I did not get, usually get expelled immediately, which is like in the morning, but I changed events and I blamed something on somebody, and then I was able to buy myself a couple hours. And so within the span of those hours, I got a new location, and I went to this new location and I got a clue, and that clue opened up a conversation with another person that I didn't have before. And so you just gradually like peel back the layers of this onion to try to, at one point, just finally understand how everything fits together, who's really doing what, how that relates to you, and how you can move pieces around in order to, bend the world to your will. I think the art is really good. It's got a very solid color, bold outline, pleasantly like hand drawn. It is kind of a cartoonish style, but it's not like goofy cartoonish. It's just like very pleasantly illustrated. I think the graphics are very nice. I think that the presentation of the world is also very good. You can see the entire school basically on one screen, and you'll see all the different rooms, kind of like an ant farm cutaway. Like the teachers, will be in one place. There's an assembly hall. There's the garden. There's, the tower where the girl gets pushed. There's your bedroom and so forth and so on. And you can kind of move around where you wish and kind of just like, see what's there and figure things out. You can pick up a bunch of items and have a bunch of items in your pocket, and then, just wreak whatever mayhem you can or figure out whatever mysteries you can. So I think I'm, again, kind of like with fights in tight spaces. I'm just scratching the surface of this one. Every run that I'm doing, I find something new or something different. So I get like a little bit further each time. I have not managed to avoid expulsion yet, and I've done 3 or 4 runs so far, but I'm sure that will come with time. I just need to find out more things and try new things. When you're going through discussions, I believe, well, I think this game is a bit light on tutorialization. I wish they gave you just a little bit more. I believe that when you go back through discussions, it highlights which choices you've already picked so that you can already skip those and choose something different if you wish to. There is kind of a fast forward option, so it doesn't feel like you're just going through the same thing over and over and over, because that would get old pretty quickly. And like I said, because new options pop up, because new conversations happen, you do feel like you're, maybe you're only taking one step forward, but you still are taking a step forward, which I think is good. If you got stuck doing the same things over and over, it would get old quickly, and I think I would probably bounce, but it's definitely interesting. One thing I will say, though, I'm having a little bit of difficulty with, is that as far as I can tell, and maybe there's something here, or maybe I will open up an option later. It's possible that there's an option later that I just haven't uncovered yet. I feel like it's hard for me to keep track of who's where doing what. And I kind of wish there was like a visual representation of that you could dip into. I found a calendar or a schedule or something. I picked it up and I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is probably that thing. But it wasn't, or maybe I'm just not using it properly. I guess I'm not sure if there is a function like that, but that's the thing that I'm a little bit confused about, because I'm not sure who's doing what, where, or when, and if there was a way to keep track of that other than simply writing it down on a piece of paper in real life, that would be helpful. But that's really the only kind of like rough edge I'm having with it so far, just because it's a lot to take in, it's a lot to keep straight, and because I'm playing like 9 other games at the same time, like, I'm not giving it my 100% full focus. So it's a little bit difficult. It seems like there's a lot of moving pieces to keep track of, but I will dip into it further and just see how it goes. But so far, if you like the Inkle games, I think you're going to like this one, especially if you like Overboard. Overboard was very much just like this, but set on a ship and a slightly different premise, but the structure of it was largely the same. So seems like another winner for Inkle. And if you like quirky indies, this one seems like an easy recommend. So check this one out. This is Expelled. Playing it on the Switch, and it runs just fine. Last big game of the show, or I guess just last game of the show, regardless of how big it is Split Fiction, coming from Hazelight Studios, put out by EA Originals, I think is kind of their like sub imprint for, I kind of hesitate to call it an indie these days, but I guess not exactly a AAA, but sort of, kind of, with a lot of like AAA backing, but not really. This is the one that comes from the people who made It Takes Two and Brothers, and there might have been that one with the prison guys, I forget. This studio, their shtick or their gimmick is taking games that have 2 active characters and having 2 people play at the same time co-op, but not necessarily couch co-op. There's always like an online component. So in all of their games, well, no, that's not true. Brothers? No, yeah, there was a second person in Brothers. No, I'm wrong. In Brothers, it was controlled by one person. I believe it was one person. But after that, they did the prison one, whichever one that one's called, and that was 2 people. And then they did It Takes Two, that was 2 people. And now we have Split Fiction, which does take 2 people. You cannot play this game by yourself. It is impossible. You must have a second person. So the premise of Split Fiction is that you are a writer who is getting a publishing deal with a huge company, which very much looks like, I don't know, future Apple or something like that. There's like a weird Steve Jobs-like wannabe guy, and he's talking about this cool invention, and then he invites these writers to come to his lab, and the writers think they're just getting a straight-up publishing deal, but what actually happens is, and this is not a spoiler, it's like the first 2 minutes of the game here, what happens is they get strapped into his machine, and the machine is basically like stealing their ideas. So I feel like there are some connections to what's going on with AI right now. People appropriating content and stealing things for AI purposes and not really generating it on their own. So that's kind of what's going on here. These writers get sucked into this machine. The machine starts stealing their ideas. The writers figure out what's going on, and they're kind of fighting back. There's more to it than that, but that's the basic gist, because the 2 characters that you end up playing is one of them is a sci-fi writer and one of them is a fantasy writer. And that's kind of the basic premise of Split Fiction, and where the name comes from, because fiction is both of them. Fiction is both fantasy and sci-fi, but the split is half the time you're in a sci-fi themed world when you are following the stories of the first writer, and then you will flip and do fantasy stuff when you're following the stories of the second writer. And it goes back and forth. You'll do like cyber ninja section where you're running around with swords in a dark like Blade Runner city, and the very next level will be bright like a village with people wearing like simple clothes, and then there's orcs and goblins and stuff like that. So it goes back and forth between the two genres with other random stuff thrown in between. The story in this game, which I've just covered, I think is fine. My biggest gripe about this studio in general is that the writing is just not good. The best script they've turned out so far is Brothers, and in Brothers there was no talking. So that, I think, is why it turned out so good. After Brothers, with the prison game, some of that dialogue felt so flat and weird and alien. Also in It Takes Two, that was offensive. Some of that stuff in there was actually like actively offensive to me. And there was some terrible, terrible writing in that game. So this one, I feel like, is at least better. It's fine. It's a straightforward story. There hasn't been anything massively offensive so far. There have been no major faux pas. But, you know, it's a story of these authors playing through their own fantasy worlds or sci-fi worlds to get their ideas back. I mean, it's a fine premise. We're not really here for the storytelling, though. We are here for the gameplay. And to be fair, that is where this studio excels. All of their games have had really, really fun gameplay. So to answer a couple questions right off the bat, you do need two people to play this, but only one person has to buy it. And heads up, I did get a code from the publisher to talk about it here on the show. So how this works is, like, you get your code. So what I did was I cashed in the code on my PS5, and then the game registers me as having it. Then my wife, who has her own PS5, she went to the PS Store, and then you download the Split Fiction Friend Pass, I think it's called, Buddy Pass, Friend Pass, something like that. It's like it's in those three dots that are beside the name of the game. It took us a minute to find it because it's not super obvious, but you go to like the three dots beside the name of the game, and then it'll be like Friend Pass. You basically just download the entire game, what it seemed like, and then it just like locks it and will not unlock it unless somebody who has paid for the game sends you a friend request, either through EA servers or the Sony servers, or I guess Xbox if you're on Xbox. And then it says, okay, one person paid for this. We unlock the second version. Then you guys can play together. Now, the interesting about this is that my wife does not pay for PS Plus because she's mostly an Xbox person lately. And so she does not pay for PSN or PS Plus anything. So when we started playing, it was no problem. But then we tweaked some settings because my son wanted to play on his profile, and it kind of changed things. And then all of a sudden my wife was locked out and we couldn't figure out what was going on. And so apparently, because I pay for PS Plus and I paid for the game, when I had my wife's console active, we had game sharing, PlayStation game sharing on her console. And I didn't realize this, but apparently if only one person has PS Plus, but you have game sharing, that second person is covered by your PS Plus subscription. At least that's what it looks like, because when we changed the settings, she was booted off and it was trying to get her to sign up. And she's like, what the fuck? I literally played this yesterday and I haven't subscribed to PS Plus for like years. Why today of all days is it telling me? And that was the only thing we could figure out. So apparently you are covered, from what I can tell, with a second person for PS Plus if you have game sharing on that console. And and in case you don't know what game sharing is, so what game sharing is you can authorize one particular console to let everybody whose profile is on that console play the games that you have on the console. So for example, let's say I've got Split Fiction on my PS5 and I have game sharing on this console, and my son jumps in and he logs into his profile. All the games I have in my library or that are on my hard drive are accessible to him, no problem. But if we turned game sharing off, if we did, when he would log in on the same PS5, all the games would be locked to him, which I think is crap. So you can only have, I think, one console that has game sharing at a time. And so my wife currently has it, which means she can get on, doesn't have to pay for PS Plus. And she downloaded the Friend Pass so she can play it herself. It's a little bit janky. It's not super mega janky, but there was a couple hoops for us to jump through. But honestly, it was all pretty straightforward. And I think really the complicating factor is that everybody in my household is a gamer. So everybody's got their own console. And we probably do a lot more game shit than the average person. Like if there's only one PS5 in your house, you probably don't got to worry about it. But because we've got multiple, because everyone's a gamer, that is like an added layer that I think most people won't really need to worry about. In any event, once you get connected up, it's basically pretty easy. You start the game, and the game goes back and forth between being shared full screen, but mostly it's split screen. And it drives me crazy because they did this with the last couple of games too. They did this with the prison game. They did this with It Takes Two as well. Is that even though you're on two separate consoles, on two separate TVs, the game still insists on being split screen. And so there's many times when I'm like, I just want to see my whole screen because my wife doesn't need to see my screen and I don't need to see hers. And so they keep doing this forced split screen thing, and it's so weird. I looked it up. Just like last time, you can't change it. It's not in the settings. And so I just find it so irritating and bizarre that they keep doing this. But it's not always split screen. Sometimes you get the whole screen where both players are on the screen at once, and it makes sense when that happens. Usually one person is doing one thing, the other person is doing something else. You can see each other at the same time. It works well. I don't know. I just don't really see the value in forcing the split screen when we've got all this hardware and like everybody's got half a TV that's going unused. So there's that. Anyway, that aside, so each player can choose one person and you can switch every time you start the game. So like one person is Mio. She is the sci-fi writer, pretty negative and cynical, and the other person is Zoe, who is a fantasy writer, really sunshiny and bright and positive, balancing each other out. And then you just start the game. And you'll choose either a sci-fi or a fantasy scenario based on the ideas that the characters have. And then you'll kind of just go through different co-op stuff. Sometimes you're doing something straightforward and simple, like running in the same direction, and each person just has to run and not get killed by obstacles. Sometimes you're just jumping, and then it quickly ramps up in difficulty and sometimes the coordination level. So in one section, we're doing stuff like just flying. We each are just flying. But then in a later section, one of us will be in a flying car in the sci-fi area. One person drives, one person shoots. Pretty straightforward. But then in this other section, we have like a motorcycle where it like can change gravity. And so one person's changing gravity while the other person is shooting. So that's like even more complicated. And so you're both kind of doing the same thing at the same time, or different things at the same time to kind of help each other out and progress. But then later on, you'll go like to the fantasy section, and in one area, there's like a pool of water, and my character could be in the water and my wife's character could not. And so my character was like swimming underwater, making these platforms rise for my wife. And so she couldn't cross without my help. And I needed her help when we got to the far end. So like I would activate the platforms in sequence. She would jump on them and then she would make it to the end. And then when she got to the end, she would like lower a ladder for me. And then I would climb up and we would just help each other back and forth. The game really excels at doing that kind of stuff. There's been lots of really cool ideas, lots of cool scenarios, really surprising stuff. I mean, there's one section in the sci-fi world, the Blade Runner world, that was really quite a show-stopping set piece. We were altering gravity and we were walking on this like narrow walkway, and the camera was like looking sideways. And so we could kind of see like the cityscape, but it was like the wrong perspective. And one person had gravity that was going like north to south, and one person had gravity that was going east to west. And so we were like in the same space, but not walking the same way, not walking the same direction. And the city was scrolling by in the background. Like it looked pretty awesome. Like it was quite a scene. We both remarked on it being like, whoa, this looks like really trippy and pretty cool. So that was neat. Boss battles are in the game. I think they all uniformly have too much life, just like they used to in the past, but they're all fine. You're all doing like various things. Like, one person will grab a hold of a boss to hold him still. The other person will attack and vice versa, that kind of a thing. We just did a section where we had a bomb that was kind of like a hot potato. And so we had to take the bomb to the bomb disposal area, and you had to run through this little course. But if you held onto the bomb for more than like 10 seconds, it would blow up. So like you had to carry it, talk to the person, hey, I need to get rid of the bomb. Can you catch it? They would get into position. Okay, throw it. You throw it, they catch it, and then they run for 10 seconds and then throw it back. And so you have to coordinate like passing off the bomb before it explodes. That's pretty fun. All sorts of stuff like that. We just recently did a big section where my wife, who was Zoe, the fantasy lady, she transformed into a giant tree monster thing, and she was like tromping through the forest. Like she was like as big as like an aircraft carrier. And then I was a gorilla on her back, and I was fending off these monkeys that were attacking her. So while she was steering the big creature that was walking, I was like running up and down on her back, like keeping monsters away from her and letting her kind of finish the run. So you're doing all sorts of stuff like that, which I think is really cool. Lots of creative ideas, lots of variety. I don't feel like we're doing the same thing over and over. They have not gone back to the well. God, have they even gone back to the same well more than once or twice? I don't think so. So there's plenty of variety going on. And there's also little side stories where they throw in some random stuff. We did one side story where the two of us were pigs in a barnyard, and the wife could split her body in half like a slinky, pig slinky, splinky, I don't know, plinky, whatever you want to call that. and my pig farted rainbows and could glide, which was really weird. And so we would share the abilities of trying to help each other out and platform certain ways. My rainbow gas could propel me horizontally while her spring could propel her vertically. And so we were kind of getting through challenges that way, each one handling one dimension or one axis. So pretty cool ideas all the way through. I think for the most part, the graphics are really nice and sharp. I think the characters look good. The environments look good. I think occasionally we are getting to a level, usually it's the vehicle level, sometimes on a motorcycle or a boat or a glider or something like that, where we're not quite sure where we're going. And there's been a few points in the platforming levels where we're just wait a minute, did we just double back? Most of the time they push you forward, no problem, and it's fine. And this game really prizes velocity. They want you to keep moving forward. They want you to keep doing challenges, which is all great. We're on board. But every once in a while, we'll hit a section where it's what are we doing? Where are we going? And I don't quite know. And, most of the time it's 2-3 minutes of messing around and we'll figure it out. But sometimes I think the signposting could be just a little bit better. And sometimes there's been a few sections where I think the mechanics could be polished just a little bit more. Sometimes there's a few jumps that we're not sure we can make, but then we can make because we have just needed to just eke that little bit of more distance out, but we weren't really convinced that was the right thing to be doing. Or there was one section that we were in where it seemed like we were failing and failing and failing, and it was just that the jump just wasn't registering the right way. It was the wife was trying to land on a giant flower or something like that, and she just kept missing and missing, and we were are we even supposed to jump on this thing? It's got to be the only thing to do. And we just failed and failed and failed. And all of a sudden she just made it. There was no real difference in what happened. So those are pretty rare to be honest. It's not we're having a lot of technical difficulty, but there are a few spots I think that could be polished up just a little bit. But overall, we're having quite a good time. I think it's a fun premise. The story is better, or at least not as offensive as it was in It Takes Two. I think the varied mechanics are really good. It's very kinetic, very energetic. Everything just feels like it's just rocket propelled and moving forward. And you're always doing something different. There's always some new challenge. There's always some new thing around the corner. And we have been routinely surprised over and over and over. So I think that's really good. And we're just having a blast. I think there's a couple sections that have been difficult that when I first started playing this, I was going to text one of my friends who is a gamer, but his girlfriend is not a gamer. And so I was oh, this might be a cool thing for you to get her in on this because it has not been very difficult so far. But I'm glad I didn't send that text because right after I was going to say that, we hit a couple spots where I'm okay, this is a little bit frustrating. Or there's a couple parts that require just a little bit more coordination than I think the average non-gamer person might have at their disposal at a moment's notice. So when you're doing couple stuff, I think, you want to avoid frustration. You don't want to have a fight after you play a game. So I still think it's a really good game for friends. And if you both, whether you're friends or partners or spouses or dating or whatever, if both people have at least a pretty okay level of game skill, I think you'll be fine. But there's a few sections here that I think might be frustrating to somebody who's not really a gamer. So just heads up on that. I would hate to recommend this and then you guys end up having a fight or something. That would be a real bummer. But if you've got a friend, I think this is a really fun, really great weekender. You just roll through it. And it's set piece after set piece and idea after idea. It's just a great time. I really do like the gameplay of this studio, of Hazelight Studios. I think they've got a good formula going on. So having a lot of fun. Have not finished it, but I feel like we are a good patch into it. We've got to be at least a third, if not half of the way through it. And it's been just a good time so far. So there you go. Split Fiction, playing it on PS5, runs beautifully. And I think it is good stuff. All right, folks, that is the game portion of the show now officially done. But like many humans, I do spend a few minutes a week in front of screens that don't have menus or life bars. That's right. It is time for the TV and movie roundup. First up, we finished Mr. Midnight. I'm pretty sure I talked about this on the last episode. If I didn't, this is a Netflix original set in Indonesia about friends who are fighting the supernatural. One of the friends has some spiritual powers. They call him a dukun, which is kind of like a shaman or a magic user, I guess, a spiritual communicator kind of a guy, set in the Indonesian mythology, and his friends kind of support him. They're all high schoolers. It's a very family-oriented show. It's not super spooky, but it was fun. We feel like we learned a little bit about Indonesian culture, and we got a look at a different country. I'm sure it was all sanitized and stuff, but still, seeing something that's not set in New York or LA is kind of a treat these days. So I think that was really cool. We liked it a lot. It ended pretty well Although I will say we could have easily had a second season, but apparently it's canceled. I think it was in 2022. It is now 2025, and there's been nothing on it. I don't know if it was a COVID cancellation or they just didn't have the viewership or whatever, but good show. Definitely worth watching. Don't be afraid of watching because it's just one season. It's good stuff. So Mr. Midnight was great. We also finished Umbrella Academy. That is also a Netflix original. Great series. That is really, really good stuff. 4 seasons altogether. The 4th season was short. I think it was like 6 episodes. And the previous seasons have all been 10 episodes. But great stuff. A family of misfits who have superpowers and family dysfunction getting along to try to save the world from apocalypse season after season. But really the star of the show are the performances and the actors and the relationships between them. Great stuff. Not going to go on at length about it, but I'm really glad I watched it. I'm really glad we came back to it. I thought it was just tremendous, and we had a really great time with it. So definitely a recommend. That's really like one of my favorite kinds of shows. I really love that, like a little bit of supernatural or super powered, but also it's really just about the people. It's really just about the heart and the family and the relationships. That's what made it so good. Not that they were superheroes. Final thing I watched this week was Sleepaway Camp 3, a slasher movie from, I don't know, late 80s it must have been, something like that. This is one set in as you can imagine, a camp where someone goes on a rampage, and it is the 3rd in the series, and so the killer is the same in all 3. Like story-wise, it's the same killer, but the actor in the first movie is not the same as the actor in part 2 and part 3. They switched actors. I think the first person just didn't want to do it anymore, and so they switched. And they picked Bruce Springsteen's sister to be the killer in both of the following movies. That is not a spoiler. It is immediate from like 30 seconds in who the killer is. So that is like, and that's one thing I think is interesting about the Sleepaway Camp movies. Like, it is no mystery. We know who is the killer and what's going on. It's just like watching her track them down and take them out. And this is an interesting one because the killer has this really rigid, like, moral system, and they're definitely like a psycho and a freak. But by the time we're watching Sleepaway Camp 3, I'm like, okay, everybody in this movie is miserable, and I can't say that I feel super bad they're getting picked off because I feel like they kind of deserve it. So it was a pretty guilt-free viewing. A lot of hoots, a lot of hollers. There were some wacky deaths in this one. I think one of my favorites involved a flagpole, and another one involved a lawnmower. So there was definitely some kooky deaths. It was just fun, goofy. If you like 80s schlock, I think this is a perfect example of that. And it was just wild. Like, it is what it is. And I'm not going to say that it gave me any insights on the human condition, but we sure did laugh a lot. And I thought it was a fun watch if you like 80s kind of slasher movies. All right, folks, that is a show. Before the closing music, I would love for you all to leave reviews, share the show on social media, but most important of all, please recommend So Video Games to your friends because nothing beats good old word of mouth. And as always, we'd love to get your questions and comments and also your thoughts on the new process. I know this is kind of a weird process. Maybe it sounded a little disjointed. Let me know. Did you care? Did you notice? Did you like? Did you not like? Let me know what you think. You can email me directly at sovideogamespodcast@gmail.com, or you can also reach me on social media. You can also find me on Instagram and Blue Sky. It's my name, BradGallaway, all A's, no O's. You can also reach me in the So Video Games Discord, which is totally free of charge. Just drop me a line through any of the channels I just mentioned, and we'll get you on board to continue the conversation. Finally, if you'd like to support the show and help with the ever-increasing cost of running the podcast, you can do that over at patreon.com/the So Video Games Podcast. Every single dollar helps me keep the show going, and €1 helps that much more. And because this is the absolute end of the show, shout out to Andy Robertson, who says he listens to the absolute end of every show. I'm asking, are you still here? Andy, I hope you are still here. Shout out to you, my good friend. And this is going to do it for episode 432. Thank you all again for joining me here on the So Video Games Podcast, and I'll see you next week.